Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Saaghe Fogwe podcast. Today is a special one. It's 4th of July today. So happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to all in the US. Um, red, white, and blue. You see my white, red, blue, keeping up with the colors and just celebrating our independence. There are a lot of people out there who sacrifice their lives for us in order for us to have this independence, to have freedom of speech, freedom of voting, freedom of just freedom. But that's not our topic today. It just happens that today our segment fell on this special day. But I have someone here with me who is going to enlighten a lot of people today. He's going to warm some hearts today. He will reach out to people who are still in the shadows, um, not wanting to make it known what they're going through. His journey is an interesting one. He's somebody I've known for so many years. We lived back in Minnesota several years ago, and then we both moved to Dallas separately, but we ended up here. We almost have moved the whole community from Minnesota to Dallas. But he'll tell us a lot more about himself in a little bit here. So I'm very, very honored and privileged to welcome Abara Dibaki to the show. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much and happy 4th to you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very honored to have you here today. I know it was kind of short notice that I gave you, but you were willing to jump on, and so we can have this conversation today. So, the topic today is the journey to kidney transplant. This man has gone through quite a bit. I'm amazed that you're sitting here with me having this conversation, but God is faithful.
Oh, yeah.
He is faithful. So before we go into the conversation, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell people who you are. There might be some names that I'll find out today that I've always known Abara.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. It's definitely an honor speaking to your audience and to the community. My name is Abara Dibaki. I'm a product of Cameroon. I was born in Limbe, now, well, Victoria then, now Limbe. I grew up in Yaoundé, did all my formative educational years in Bamenda and Ashinkom, and then came to the US in 99. Joined the army, was in the army for about 7 years. After the army, I came back to civilian life and I went to medical school in the Caribbean, came back to the practice in the Caribbean for about 2 or 3 years in Antigua, and then came back here when my daughter was born and, you know, did it one or two things. I didn't get into residency, so, but that never deterred me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of used to like getting to the top and then hitting the factory reset again and doing it all over again. So it's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it as we go along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I forgot about medical school.
Mhm.
I forgot you had done that. Yeah. But now what are you doing?
Right now, so I told you I hit a factory reset. So I
Yes.
actually went through the nursing route and now I'm a psych
Yeah.
NP. And my wife and myself we run a psych
Practice.
practice in
Yeah.
Cedar Hill.
And she needs to come on the show and talk about this
Oh,
practice. I know she
definitely.
likes to be in the background, but
Yep.
she sent you today, so we'll talk about her in a bit here.
Definitely. She would definitely be able to talk more on the donor side of the
Yes.
whole
Yes.
journey. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll definitely have a part two to this segment
Yep.
because today will be packed with a lot of
Mhm.
information. Just share with our audience a little bit, what motivates you, what keeps you going, what are the things that get Abara excited or
Well, that's a loaded question in the sense that I can there is a pre-transplant and
yeah,
post-transplant.
yeah,
So pre-transplant, I was like, the American dream, being getting to the top of whatever I put my
yeah,
hands in. But now I kind of readjusted my goals. It's still the same in the sense that I want to do everything I
hmm,
wanted to do, but now I'm more like I'm living life as is right now.
yeah,
I'm not worried about in 20 years, 30 years.
yes,
For me now it's more like health span versus lifespan. So
Yeah.
spending time with the kids,
Hmm.
doing my own little projects. I'm,
Yeah.
just taking it one day
Yeah,
at a
one day at
time.
a time.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
way I don't
Yeah.
you don't get caught up in this stress and anxiety
Hmm.
and all that good
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Very important. How
Mhm.
many kids do we have?
I
Tell
have
us about.
three, two boys and one girl. Yeah.
Yeah, and amazingly, you had a kid after the transplant.
Oh
That was
yeah, I
something
know.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
amazing.
my
After the
nephrologist told me to
yes,
wait a little bit, but then it is what
life
it is.
happens.
I'll blame it on COVID. So
It was a COVID baby,
yep.
so yeah. So let's go into the conversation here. So tell us. I know. So there are many causes of kidney disease
Hmm.
out there. So we know that high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, some genetic conditions can
Hmm.
cause kidney disease, nephrotic syndrome. There are a lot of things out there that can cause alcohol,
Yep.
smoking, a lot of things can
Mhm.
lead to it. But in your case, what led you to kidney disease? What was the cause?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. My entire life I'd always been a health freak, so I did all the routine, the doctor's appointments, everything. So even 2 weeks prior to my my diagnosis, I went to my primary care, did the routine annual exam and everything. Everything was normal.
Wow.
So the interestingly, the diagnosis was found when I applied for insurance. So normally insurances they'll do their best
Hmm.
not to give you insurance. So they,
Yes.
they did a 24-hour urine screen, and that's when they found out I had a proteinuria. And that was like in July of
And
2017.
that's protein in your urine
Yep.
for those who
Yeah,
are
yeah.
not
Okay.
medical.
All right. Sorry. I,
So
I would
we'll
have to
use
break it down.
yeah, use the medical term, but then let's break
Yeah.
it
All
down
right.
for
So yeah,
everyone.
they
Yes.
found protein in my urine
Mhm.
after a 24-hour urine collection study. So and that's pretty much where the whole cascade kind of unfolded. So
And this was 2017.
2017, like prior
Yes.
to that, I had no high blood pressure, nothing, never had any health related issues. That's kind of like it tells you that your mind and your body are connected in ways that we as humans do not really
Mhm.
understand. Because from
Mhm.
as soon as I was diagnosed in January 2017, within 2 weeks, I started having what do you, edema or
Yes,
fluid
swelling.
swelling in my feet.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'll notice it in my like abdominal area or around my stomach area. And it was quite an interesting journey. So I started off at Baylor in the Baylor Health System here
Hmm.
in Waxahachie.
Hmm.
They did the all the workup and everything. They couldn't really find out what exactly was the main cause, so I was handed over to a nephrologist, Dr. Aga, very smart guy. He was with the Dallas Renal Group,
Hmm.
and him and I were we kind of like trying to figure it out. Now at this point, it was more like a colleague type of relationship,
Yes.
not a
Yeah. It
patient
wasn't
doctor
patient. Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
We were trying to
Hmm.
like going into different systems, ruling this out, ruling that out, and eventually we did a what- biopsy,
Biopsy. Yeah,
and
where they
then
take a piece of it.
mhm.
Yeah, to
So
test
we
it.
found
Hmm.
out it was a C3 glomerulonephritis, and I was like, "What's this?"
Yeah, big term.
Yeah.
We have
So,
to break that term
oh,
into
definitely.
pieces.
So pretty much,
Yeah.
your body has a defense mechanism which goes through we have many defense mechanisms, but my disease involves the complement pathway.
Mhm.
So the complement pathway, it's like it has three pathways in it. You have the classical, the lectin, and the alternative. So mine involves two of those, but primarily one, but two are involved. So
Mhm.
the C3 comes from the classical pathway. Normally, I would put it in layman terms like since this is the 4th of July, the classical pathway is like the Air Force when they get in reconnaissance of an enemy location or whatever, they'll
Mhm.
fly over and kind of make sure that it's accurate. They'll target, get kind of GPS
Mhm.
coordinates, and then they'll send the information over to the infantry, which is now the alternative pathway. And now it's the infantry's job to neutralize the target.
Mhm.
So in my case, the alternative pathway, it's kind of like when you're boiling beans, let's
How
say
do you
you're
know I cooked beans today?
ah
I actually just
I
came
eat
from
a lot
cooking
of beans.
beans.
So when you, let's say you're boiling 2 pots of beans,
Yeah.
you cover both pots. You start everything at the same time, blah blah blah. And now you see that for some reason one pot both would overboil, and then you take off the lid, but one would stop overflowing, the other
Hmm.
one just continues overflowing. That's what happens to in my case. So the alternative pathway is not, it's gone astray
Hmm.
pretty much. So that's the $1 million question nowadays. There is really no known cure for it. A couple of clinical trials ongoing. I'm not yet taking part in any of the clinical trials because once you're post transplant, it's
Hmm.
kind of, there are maybe one or two there, but the criteria are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, compared to just a
Hmm.
normal patient who hasn't gone through a
Yeah.
transplant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the kidneys were not. They were not getting rid of toxins.
Yeah.
They were
So
not getting rid of what they needed to.
so with that particular illness disorder, the the excess C3 from the alternative pathway gets deposited in two places. You either have your
Guys,
eyes.
remember he went to med school, so so
No,
the
no, no,
terms
no,
he
no,
cannot help it.
no. Now I'm speaking like a layman, hopefully. So you either get what they call Drossens deposit in the eyes, or you get C3 deposit in the glomerular system. And
Hmm.
pretty much once you have excess too much C3 deposited, so pretty much immune complex deposited in your glomerular system, you kind of have all these inflammatory processes,
Hmm. So
scarring and everything.
scarring,
So
swelling.
eventually
Hmm.
everything gets blocked, and you, at that point, it doesn't matter if you had C3 or glomerulonephritis, or you had diabetic nephropathy or
Hmm.
whatever.
So
You're
the
now,
cause doesn't matter.
yeah, at that point, you and the guy who came in through diabetes or through high blood pressure or through whatever cause,
Hmm.
you're now dealing with the same presentation.
Hmm.
So you have the swelling in the feet,
Hmm.
waking up with like puffy eyes. Sometimes you're very itchy.
Hmm.
And then, like for men, I don't know about women, I can only speak for men, but when you go pee, you realize that it's like, you look at after you're
Urine.
done
Hmm.
peeing, you think it's like somebody took a bottle of Guinness and shook it, and then you see that foamy part
Yeah.
on top. That's how it's left.
Wow.
It shows up.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, this is something that a lot of people are dealing with this. Some people can afford treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can't even afford to go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So you find people in different communities who end up either just passing away without getting any kind of help. Others, because of they're embarrassed, they don't want to let the next person know what they're going through. So this segment today, we're
Mm-hmm.
really wanting to reach out to people who are out there who have kidney problems, and they're ashamed to tell people, or they're ashamed to get help because they think they'll judge them, or I was an alcoholic, or I'm diabetic. Even
Mm-hmm.
diabetes, people are embarrassed.
Yep.
So speak to some of these people, and we'll keep going
Mm-hmm.
into your story, but I want to stop and keep reassuring our
Mm-hmm.
audience that, you know, these are things that are common. But speak to these people and, just from your experience, speak to them about how, some of these basic the symptoms, how you can manage those and still have a, like have a full life.
Yeah. So pretty much once you're, a lot of us in our, we, I guess we come from that tradition where people feel like their illnesses are classified information. Even the CIA should not have access to it. I know a lot of people personally who are going through different, it doesn't really have to be kidney disease, but like
Yes.
different chronic diseases, but for some reason they don't want to tell any, it's like a hush hush thing.
Hmm.
You never know who might be your outlet, your
Hmm.
solution. Because by telling other people about what you're going through, they might know somebody who went through that same thing, or
Hmm.
somebody who might have got a certain type of treatment which you might never have had. And it helps to bring exposure to your condition. And then you also have support groups.
Yes.
Even though
Hmm.
personally I've never been through one. I think I should at
You
some
should,
point
yes,
because I,
maybe start one
yeah, because
in your
it's
community.
definitely
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you might overprocess information all by yourself in your brain, and you find
And
yourself
use
going
Dr.
into
Google. Some people use Dr. Google, Dr.
YouTube.
Wikipedia, YouTube, to be their doctor or to
Yeah,
diagnose things with. I mean, yes, there's information out there, but you
hmm
don't want to get it from the wrong
yeah.
source. So yeah, let's stop and share the video.
Okay.
Let's get the link. So if you're joining us right now, please like the video, subscribe, and share, so that others can join this conversation, because it's a really good one. Just copy the link here. Yeah, I'll share in a minute. Okay, I will do. Yeah. If you're joining us, yeah, we're gonna continue this conversation. We're just sharing real quick so that people can join us and do the same, as we're taking a quick pause here. Just share the video. And don't get tired of these conversations, because every time it's something different. And by you sharing the video, you don't know who you're going to touch, or who needs this information badly. And they might have a family member who's dealing with this, and the information will most likely help them. So we're talking to people who are out there, are going through what kidney disease,
hmm
and feel, I mean, and anything else. But you were kind of talking about how to live with this, and reassuring them, basically. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, there is always a solution out there, irrespective of how chronic your condition is or how bad it is. There is always a way to, like, for you to live through it. Because I mean, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes you think, oh, kidney disease is bad. Imagine if you had, let's say, some kind of lung disease or heart issue.
Mm-hmm.
There is really no dialysis equivalent for your lungs or your
Mm-hmm.
heart.
Mm-hmm.
At least with kidney disease, you can always have dialysis,
Yeah.
and there are many different options out there.
Yeah. So walk us through so that process, the process of we've talked about the diagnosis,
hmm
right? So walk us through that process, how you went from it being,
Nephritis,
glomerulonephritis,
yep, C3,
that
yeah.
word C3,
hmm
and then to the point where now it was, just walk us through that process, what your family went through. Just, how did this change the face of things for you? Because I mean, I want to, I bet it wasn't easy to get up and just go like you normally did. Things you had to put some thought into activities of daily
Oh
living.
yeah, everything
Yeah.
changes. Everything changes. Like, so, like, for me, I went from 100 to zero in a process of maybe 7 months. Because after, as soon as I was diagnosed in June or July 2017, we did a biopsy when the C3 glomerulonephritis was confirmed.
Mhm.
The only cure at the time, and even till now, it's eculizumab, or also known as
Mhm.
Soliris, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, the
So
pill.
yeah, no,
No, it's
it's
a
an
it's
I.
an IV. It's
Mhm.
IV. It's not pill.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
IV.
I did
Mhm.
5 weeks of infusion twice a week or so at Methodist Dallas, and it never worked for me.
Did
So,
insurance cover all of this? Was it covered?
oh yeah, that's when I understood the healthcare system in the US. it's complicated. It's you would easily get cured in Cuba than here. Yep, we had to go through all types of compassionate use and all. It was just too
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
They ended up covering for it. I had commercial insurance at the time, so that
Mm-hmm.
was good. They covered for all of that. After the 5 weeks, it never worked for me because my mine was an aggressive form.
Mm-hmm.
So we continued managing it on the regular post-transplant medication. Even though I didn't have a transplant, but the medication at mycophenolate and yep, mycophenolate. That was the medication I was put on, but still, it never slowed the process
Mm-hmm.
down. And eventually, maybe 8 months later, I was actually on my way to Minnesota to a wedding, and my nephrologist called me. I was at the airport, and he's like, "We have to. Your creatinine is 9, and we need to start dialysis right away."
And you were driving
No, no, I
or
was. Oh,
flying.
we're flying, yeah, and I was like, "Wow." At that point, I wasn't really looking at. I guess too much information sometimes
Yeah.
when you know too much about the process, you kind of like don't really take it. For me, I don't take it like it's not a shock.
Mhm.
I knew we're heading down
And
that
I've
way.
never seen you really like show different emotions. You're always just here. So I cannot imagine, I can't even imagine how you were, with this process. You're
Yeah,
always just,
yeah. So
like,
I was never really shocked. I was
yeah.
like, oh wow, okay. We talked about it, and we're like, okay, when can we start? I just told him I'm going to a wedding. When I come back, we'll go ahead and do the thing. And then when I came back to Dallas, I went to the hospital. That was in around September of 2018.
Hmm.
So we the initial goal was to start with a peritoneal dialysis
Hmm.
because
Explain that a little
so
bit.
that's
Like what,
pretty
how?
much where they would put let's just say overall you do your own dialysis at home. you
Hmm.
you have different you have different tubes in your body, in your abdomen, and then you put the dialysis fluid in at, let's say, at night. I think it was supposed to take about 8 hours or more,
Hmm.
and the drainage occurs while you're sleeping. We actually did that, but it didn't work for me. It works for a lot of other
Hmm.
people, but
Hmm.
for me it
Some people
never.
do it for years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like, we'll do the whole process. Towards the end of the drainage process, there's a little tube at the end of the in one of the catheters that
Hmm.
goes. It's sitting pretty much almost above your bladder, and when you know how, like, when you're sucking something up, the last few, those are bubbles,
Hmm.
they would hurt because the tube will be flapping
Yeah.
around. So the surgeon did a couple of two adjustments.
But it still didn't work.
It was still painful. I was like, nah, I cannot deal with this. So then we switched to hemodialysis.
Hmm.
I
Where
used
you go into a
to a
center.
center. Yes,
Hmm.
I had a porter cath. What side was it on? I think it was, yeah, it was on this side. Was it? Nah, no, maybe it was on the right side
Hmm.
actually. Yeah. So I had that for about maybe 7 months.
Hmm.
Initially, I would go to the center. Back then, having home dialysis was kind of a whole complicated process.
Hmm.
So, and I had private insurance. So I went to the center for about 3 months. In that process, I lost my job. Life became very tough. I was like, wow,
Hmm.
is this what dialysis is
Yeah.
all about? Because I mean, you cannot tell your job that every day, even though you
They
have this
know.
short term, they gave me short term
Hmm.
disability for the first 3 months. And after that, I was like, sorry, business still has to go
Yeah.
on as usual.
Uh-huh.
So eventually I lost that job. Then I
Hmm.
found something else. And then by then I was more aware of, I had created a few connections with
Hmm.
social workers and everything. So they connected me with this Kenyan guy who was running a home dialysis
Hmm.
business. So pretty much he came and set it up at home. And by then I had two insurances now, because normally once you're officially put on a dialysis,
Yeah.
you get Medicare by default. But then there is Medicare for the working class and there's Medicare for the poor.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better
Yeah.
to be poor in this system,
Yeah.
because for the poor they get it for
You
free.
get
I got
everything.
Medicare and I
Yeah.
felt like
Mhm.
I was still paying the same as if I was paying for my regular
Yeah.
commercial insurance. So, but with that now, I did home dialysis for the rest of the time until the transplant. So, with the home dialysis, I was able to work during the day, then in the evening I'll do the dialysis Monday,
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, Fridays. And if I had to travel out of town, the guy was flexible, so sometimes he would come in on Sunday when I
Mm-hmm.
returned from my trip
Yeah.
to do a quick one.
Well,
Hmm.
well, I don't know if you guys caught what he said. He had short-term disability, but that was not enough. I've talked about it in, when I talk about, my financial stuff, and I'm not using, this situation for that, but it's very important to highlight this. Um, I have mentioned before that when we talk about having the right kind of insurance, it's very important because most people say, I have short term disability, I have long term disability. But those kinds of disability, they run out because in his case, he had a chronic, he had something chronic going on. It was a critical illness, but it ran out where he lost his job. Your job will only hold it if your name is on the building. If your
Yep.
name is not on the building, if your dad's name is on the building, even your dad can get rid of you. So
Oh
if your
yeah.
name is not on the building, the thing is you have to make sure that you have the right kind of, insurance. So I wanted to highlight that because
Mhm.
that's very important. You brought that up and
Oh
it's
yeah.
something that we need to, take note of. Yeah,
Oh
you can
yeah.
go
And
ahead.
talking about insurance, and it's once you're on the chronic path, most life insurances will turn you down.
Mhm.
So like luckily I had insurance from way back in when I was in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I've
Mhm.
always had life insurance, even though I never knew why I had it, but I always had it. So that actually I had
Mhm.
term insurance at the time like more than 15 years before
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
Minnesota.
Mhm.
And when this happened, I was like, wow. I saw myself kind of going down the drain, and I was like, so what's going to be left for the kids? And I started looking through my insurance policy, and I was like, whoa, I found out there was a 20-year convertible clause in my term insurance. And
Mhm.
I took advantage of it before I could blink. They tried to have me do a test for better policies. I was like, no, I'm not
No.
interested.
Yeah.
Let's
Because
stick
then
to
you
the
would have been
original.
disqualified.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
And so that's why I always urge people get insurance, especially when you're younger and stronger. Get your insurance because you never know tomorrow. When it happens, you'll be like, wow.
But who would have imagined? I mean, like you saying you were healthy,
Hmm.
I mean, you ate
Yep.
properly, you worked out,
Hmm.
I mean, you were in the military, so you
Yep.
were, like fit,
Mhm.
and then this hits
Oh yeah.
without, yeah, without a warning. So it's something that, like I said, a lot of people are going through. Some people, because they have the diagnosis of hypertension, diabetes, it's genetic.
Hmm.
Sometimes, you don't have control over it, but it's just being prepared for, for when or if that happens.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And
Mhm.
diabetes is kidney disease is like a slow killer. You would never really know you have it until it's too late. So like by the time they diagnosed me, my pretty much my kidney was already about 85% sclerosed or
Yeah.
scarred.
With scarring, yeah,
Hmm.
thickness,
Yep.
like, yeah, this, yeah. Wow.
Oh yeah.
So
But
of course it can't function when
hmm
it's that thick. It's, it's
yep.
firm. It's, it's not able to do what it needs to do because the
Yeah.
kidney does a lot in our
Oh yeah.
body. Gets rid of toxins. The bad stuff that we take in, the excess has to go through the kidneys. And
Yep.
yeah, we don't see how important it is
Oh yeah.
till you
Hmm.
till you're not able to go to the bathroom and pee.
Yep.
So yeah.
So I always tell people like kidney disease in general, like for any person,
Mhm.
the easiest way to understand kidney, it's like imagine River Zambezi in Africa. River Zambezi starts from the western part of Zambia. It goes into the eastern part of Angola before coming back through the border between Namibia and
I
Zambia.
have no geographic
Well, it's because
direction.
I was
Yeah.
in those places. So
Yes.
imagine now Angola decides to build a dam and say, you know what, I don't care about who, what, how. They just build a dam on River Zambezi
Mhm.
almost at the source. So what happens now? Upstream, you have everything you have in a kidney disease.
Mhm.
The the fluid build up in any organ. So it's pretty much like your kidneys. Once your kidneys are blocked, you can, if you imagine the circulatory system,
Mhm.
anything pre kidney is, think about fluid overload anywhere.
Yeah, it
Puffy
backs up.
eyes,
Yeah,
everything
everything
backs
backs
up.
up.
So that's how I normally understand the body
Yeah. Or
system
a
is.
drain
Hmm.
that it has,
Oh
a
yeah,
clog,
yep. Once you
and
clog
nothing
the
can go
drain,
through. It's going back,
hmm,
like backs up to your toilet or whatever,
then on
kind
the
of like
other
that.
side you have pretty much little or no water. So that's
Yeah,
kind of like kidney disease.
yeah,
You have too much fluid build up on this side, but then on your bladder side, it's like it's
yeah.
a desert. So like in my case, by the time I started dialysis, I didn't even pee, I couldn't pee.
Wow,
Yep.
wow,
So
wow.
some people they still pee even before
Yeah.
at the time of dialysis, and some while on dialysis they still pee.
Mm.
So everybody's
It's
presentation
different.
is different. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about the transplant. So when at what point did they get to saying that, okay, now all your option is transplant, nothing else?
Well, for me, pretty much on that first, when the doctor called me when I was on my way to Minnesota, he said, "Okay, this is what we can do right now. Since your creatinine is 9, we'll start on dialysis, but the better option will be transplant." So right at that
This
moment,
is 2018.
2018, yeah,
Okay.
I did not even wait like the next day or whatever. As soon as he told me, I just went on my WhatsApp group and sent the news out that I need a donor. And for some reason, I didn't have a second thought to it. It just occurred naturally to me. I didn't.
Thing to hide
No,
it
no, no,
or
no.
keep it from people, and
Some people are like,
have a
"Oh,
family meeting
hmm,
just with close
yeah."
family,
Some people are like, "Why are you sharing it to the public?" I'm like, I don't know. It's for me. It's just the right thing
Yeah.
to do because my driver's license. Just this is just kind of an aside. Since I came to the US in '99, from my first driver's license, I've always put on the I'm a donor. So if anything were to happen to me in a car accident, I'm ready to.
So you've always been a donor.
Always been
Yeah.
a donor, never stop. People always say, "But why do you want to be a donor?" I'm like, because it's like when you're dead, what happens? Your heart, your different body parts will rot. So if you're in a state where you're in a vegetative state, why not give it to somebody else?
It's one of those things that in our culture, it's almost a
Oh,
taboo,
it is.
yeah, it's a taboo to get rid of,
Yeah.
body parts. We've
Hmm.
had situations where, somebody's husband passes away, and because they were a donor,
Hmm.
they go home, and there's this superstition that you sold the parts for
Hmm.
something, or there's
Yeah,
just things like that.
it's something common
Yeah.
in the Afro cultures. Even if you go to Brazil or the Caribbean, it's the same. People want to die with all their parts, and
Mhm.
that's why it's always hard to like find
A donor.
local donors in those
Mhm.
areas. Yeah, so pretty much for me, an instant decision. Once we I knew that okay, dialysis has started, then I started kind of looking around because the transplant list, you could be there for 1,000 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There are people who have been on it for
Hmm.
years and they're not able to get a donor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you sent out the
Hmm.
message, and what came out of it?
Interestingly, there was a lady, one of my friends in DC, he forwarded it to some other person, and the lady said she wanted to donate. So I actually spoke to her, and I was like, I was very appreciative and everything, but I figured maybe it was better to just wait a little bit because some organ donation is it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a psychological process on its own. It entails a lot for both the donor and the recipient.
Hmm.
We might not understand the science or the energies behind everything, but
Hmm.
body parts have a way of
Yeah.
keeping in contact. So sometimes when those energies are not aligned, it's better to do something different.
But was she a match?
No,
She had okay. She You never
we
went through
yeah,
to that. So she just offered
she,
it even without
yeah,
knowing that she
without
was a,
knowing,
a
yeah.
match.
But
Okay.
I guess coming from my background, I knew kind of like talking to the person, I could already start ruling out. I would ask pertinent questions about X, Y, or Z, and I would be
Hmm.
like, I know this will not work, so let's
Hmm.
not even go any
Go through
further.
that.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
So you were triaging by
yeah.
yourself. You're doing your own
Hmm.
triage job.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, the
Hmm.
person will go through all that effort,
Yeah.
the amount of blood they take from
Yeah.
you is not it's not child's
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
So no need putting somebody through that when you already know they won't meet the criteria.
And then it ended up, I mean, the amazing part, and I just knew about this recently, that
Hmm.
w- I mean, it warmed my heart to find out that it ended up being a live donor, and
Hmm.
it was your wife.
Hmm.
Your
Yep.
wife, Attempt. I mean, Attempt, if you're watching, you are you are one special woman. Yeah, you are one special woman, because not many people will will do that donation, but you did. You
Yep.
did it for your husband. You you were able to give up a kidney for your husband. If there, I mean, we talk about love, right? We talk about love out there. Love is a word that we throw around carelessly. People, we on Facebook, we flash pictures here and there. I love this person. I'll die for this person. But there's no other way to show your partner that you love them other than giving up a body part.
Yep. That's
So
very true.
you are one lady that I commend. I knew you not too closely, but this particular situation, or when I found this out as we were preparing for this segment, I had no clue that she was your donor.
Yep.
Tell me about the process, how it came to that.
Well, we in the whole process of looking for donors, we kind of looked. We went. There were a couple of different options. It ended up being that she would be the one. And initially, was there was that you as a recipient, sometimes you feel guilty for depriving somebody else of their organs. So you have that I'll call it the recipient guilt.
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, you look at it. Okay, we're a family. We have children. What's the worst that could happen? So that's when she stepped up to the plate and went through the. We did the testing at Methodist Dallas, and she was a match, and they scheduled us for a transplant.
Wow.
Yep. So the transplant happened on October 16th of 2019, and I think I was in the ICU for 48 hours, and then went back to the regular floor for to the what's that for the nephro floor
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
for maybe another 24 hours before I went home.
So it was that quick.
Yeah,
You
it
weren't,
was quick.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
because
some people spend longer in the
yeah.
hospital because they have to be, they don't do so well after
Mhm. But
surgery. But I
yeah, I think
guess,
one thing too, which I would recommend for anyone who's ever going through any of these processes, is you should never stop exercising, irrespective of do how or however you can always exercise, because from in my case I was exercising daily before, during, and after. So when I went through all the different surgeries I went through, it never really took me that long.
because your heart was healthy.
Hmm.
Yeah, you had a healthy heart.
The
Yeah.
only
Mhm.
difference is if there is any medication out there that says a side effect is you will start flying to the moon, I will definitely be the one to have that side effect. Oh yeah, like post anesthesia. Normally, you read it in books, or post anesthesia, you might have a your what's that called in regular term? Your your motility, your stomach motility would slow down.
Yeah.
Mine actually like
Stopped.
it would come to a halt. I'll
So
get
no
to the
bowel movements,
nothing,
no
zero.
nothing moving.
Yep. It would go like that for like a week. Then all of a sudden it comes back to life. So it's because I normally after every procedure I'll go through like a few days of where I'm just anything I drink just comes out.
Yeah.
There's no movement at all. Yeah.
Wow.
So my body is very sensitive to different things. So that's why like
Okay, guys. Sorry for the interruption. That was we just had an intermission. We had to dance a little bit in studio, in the background. But yeah, so yeah, so I mean, man disposes, right?
Yep.
The devil tries to interrupt, but this was such a good conversation. I guess I realized that a lot of people were watching, so thank you guys for watching and and your patience for reconnecting with us. We were talking about the transplant process that Abara went through with Atem, and we were talking about the post-op, how he was doing post-op, and you said Atem took her a longer
Yeah, it took her
time.
longer to
Yeah, so
recover.
how much longer did it take her? Was it
I'll say
it
she took
wasn't a
about
week?
2 to 3 weeks to like be pain free and all of that.
Yeah.
Whereas I was up and around within about 2 or 3 days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And she even went even after doing the
Mm-hmm.
transplant. She had you guys had your youngest. How
Mm-hmm.
old is he now?
He's 21
He's
months.
21 months.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so he had the COVID baby. So
Mm-hmm.
again, that speaks to the fact that it doesn't you having a chronic illness doesn't, or critical or chronic illness doesn't mean that your life is
Nope,
over,
it doesn't slow
because
you
a
down.
lot of people think that with that you just have to curl up in a ball, get depressed,
Mm-hmm.
be antisocial. You don't need to be out there. You don't cut off from people, friends, and family. You don't want to go out. But life still
Oh
continues
yeah,
because you
life.
guys live a full life. You guys
Mm-hmm.
go out. You guys, I mean, you're
Oh yeah.
living, and like you said, you're taking it day by
Mm-hmm.
day.
Yep.
So really we want to speak to people about this because we have it in our community. We have people going through a lot. We have people who feel like they don't need to share their, and it's also because of the toxic environment that we're in too, because we have a lot of negativity around
Kosa.
us. Yes, gossip, right? Kosa. Yeah, you hear something, you start spreading it, you
Mm-hmm.
already diagnose the person that they have HIV, AIDS, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, which is not the end of the world, even
Yep.
if they do. So what?
Actually,
You know,
I always tell people it's like if I had a choice, I would take HIV over kidney disease.
really
Yeah,
speak to that.
because with imagine you didn't have a donor, you're pretty much
You're
if you never
done
had a transplant, you'd pretty much be on dialysis for the
for
rest
the
of your
rest of
life.
your life.
You'll be limited to what you can do, where you can go. Whereas with HIV, you take your medications and you can still fly to wherever. Well, that's
Yeah.
my personal
Yeah.
philosophy about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Hmm.
a strong
Hmm.
statement. That's a very strong statement to make because
Yeah.
where we come from, that sounds like a taboo, like
Hmm.
having HIV, AIDS. That's not our topic today, but it was just what came to
Yep.
mind, right? It's like you have a death sentence. It's over. Your
Hmm.
life is over. And then we talk about it in the little corners that we sit in, nothing progressive. We're talking about this person's
Oh yeah.
diagnosis. So then people are afraid to share. When you get sick, you don't
Hmm.
want to share, and it's not you're not you want people to know because of that support system. Just because the thing that kills people the most is, first of all, the financial stress.
Hmm.
You thinking about the financial stress will
Yep.
kill you. Then you just thinking about going through the whole process
Oh
is
yeah.
it's very it's damaging. But then if you have that positive environment, to a family that
Hmm.
loves you, friends that love you, you still can come sit and joke and be yourself.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I forgot to introduce him as a comedian. He's also a comedian.
No, that's not true. Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes he cracks those dry jokes, and then he has a straight face. You can still live life, and life goes
Oh
on.
yeah.
But we really have to set the pace for this, because your story, and I hope you're thinking about writing a book.
That's what my wife says all
I
the
hope
time.
so, because I mean it's a story that's very unique. The journey. I already
Hmm.
gave you a title,
Hmm.
Journey to Kidney Transplant. So my name has to be in the book
Of
now.
course,
In the
definitely.
acknowledgement, you are on the Saaghe Fogwe podcast. So but all jokes aside, I mean, we have to document these things. We
Yep.
have to, because there'll be a time when you can't remember the
Mm.
timeline, and all that. So you have
Yeah.
to put these things down and write it down so that, people will read about it. It will
Yeah.
help somebody. And you were talking about support system. You can start a support group.
Mhm.
You can in the Cameroonian community or African community, not just Cameroonian, African community. You might help somebody. Your story might help put somebody on the right
Oh
path.
yeah.
So post op, after all of this, the transplant, how was life? How did life change?
Hmm. Life went from zero to 1,000. Like, it's been so bright. Pretty much, so I've been in the US now going on 23 years, and in that 20 years, I'd never been to Africa. But post transplant, if I can wake up from here right now and be in Africa the next minute, I will do it. I've I've gone to Africa so many times now. It's like wow, because during the whole transplant process and even immediately post, I was like, oh my god. So it means one, because the I know a few people who had transplants before me,
Mm-hmm.
and their life is pretty much, it's very like disease focused. their
Mm.
their whole life is consumed by that disease. I
Mhm.
cannot do XYZ because I'll fall sick. I
Mm.
cannot do this because I was post up right into COVID. So as soon as I was done in October 2019, we hit COVID in
Mhm.
February. So
Mhm.
imagine all that panic and everything that was
Yeah.
going on. Initially, I was caught up in that whole
Yeah.
preservation. I need to stay alive. And then I was like, you know what? If I stay in this mode, I will kill myself
Yes.
faster.
Yes.
And I was like, you
Mentally.
know what? Let it be.
Mhm.
And I started interacting with the community. And there's this sister in Jersey, Iya, Iya Bekondo. She has a Iya Foundation. She had a transplant, I think, 14 years earlier or
Mhm.
so. And she had been going to Cameroon and doing other things in Cameroon. I was like, oh wow, so you can actually travel on with a kidney. So I spoke to my nephrologist, and
Yeah.
she was like, yeah, you can go as long as you don't take any of the cholera vaccines
Okay. Mhm.
no, no, not cholera, yellow fever.
Okay.
Yeah, no
Mhm.
live vaccines. And
Okay.
that's how I
Yeah.
was like,
Mhm.
wow.
Mhm.
So since then, I go to Africa. I spend a lot of time in Gambia. I've been to Tanzania, Rwanda.
I'm going on the next trip, by the way. Atem
Yeah.
and I already have plans.
So
I
having a
have to
chronic
go. Yeah.
disease or being
Yeah.
having received the
Yeah.
transplant is not a limitation.
Mhm.
Now I
Mhm.
do a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
it's like it makes you come alive in ways you were not alive before
Yeah.
transplant.
It's almost like you've
Mm.
been given a second
Oh yeah.
chance in life.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a new lease
Yes.
on life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and then the other thing is when it comes to support system,
Yeah.
before transplant, you're like your mental health is it's key. Prior to transplant, I thought I was the only one, going through those thought processes.
Mhm.
I've spoken to other people who've gone through transplants. Prior to transplant, you're worried about your quality of life. That's the
Yeah.
whole thing that consumes you. Then now, post transplant, interestingly, it's more challenging than pre transplant mentally because now you have this whole anxiety of what if.
It feels.
Some people can get caught up in the living in the what if it fails, especially when you know too much, you
Mhm.
know what to look for.
Yeah.
So like for me, when I go pee and I'm looking, so it's like
Yeah.
the anxiety builds up just
Yes.
by peeing.
Yes.
So I
Wow.
just got to the point where now I don't even look
Yeah.
because I know
Yeah.
if I see a few bubbles,
Yeah.
it can put you in a panic situation. So I kind of like
Wow.
I just pretend that I didn't know what
Mhm.
exactly what to
Mhm.
look for, but at the same time, I'm still
Yeah.
looking for it, but not
It's almost
aggressively
like you're
looking.
trapped in your own
Yeah.
mind. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
it's a
Mhm.
whole fine
Yeah.
balance. Yeah. Because most
Wow.
people will say, oh, you had a transplant, so you're good. But physically, you're good, but mentally, you still have a lot of things to juggle.
Mhm.
Because when I
Mhm.
speak to other people who've been through transplants,
Yeah.
some people go through a lot mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would consider myself lucky in the sense that I'm willing to step outside of
Yes.
the boundaries, the confines given to you by your providers. Do not do X, Y, Z. I'm like,
You
It is
still
what
have
it
to
is.
live.
You still
You
have
have
to
to
live a
live.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the kids understand what you went through? I know the baby doesn't, but
Hmm.
the older
Oh,
kids,
the other two,
they
yeah,
understand the
they
process
understood
you
the
went
whole.
through
Hmm.
and all that.
Even when I was on dialysis, they'll come sometimes and sit because I used to do it in the house.
Hmm.
They'll come and sit with me, and it was very emotional just seeing them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
most often when I was on the dialysis chair, I'd rather just be left alone,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it most of the people who visited me while I was on dialysis, I felt more sorry for them
Hmm.
than myself because I
Yeah.
could see the pain in their
Yeah.
eyes, and I
Hmm.
was like, wow,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's bringing tears to my eyes, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're not selfish. You're willing to share this information because we have people. I mean, we have people right now in the community who need this information,
Hmm.
and I know you've talked to, you've talked to some, and and until people are willing to, to bring this information to light, it we there's only so much we can do, right?
Yep.
But we can sensitize our
Hmm.
community. We can let our community know that it is, yes, we can pray for for the person who needs help, right?
Don't let me
But
go there.
I know it's a soapbox for you. We can pray all we want. We can fast and pray for
Hmm.
the person, but without going out to get tested to be a donor,
Hmm.
that person's probably not gonna they're gonna get, it's a fat chance for them,
Yep.
because not everybody will be as lucky as you to have their spouse
Hmm.
to be a positive match. So speak to the people about donations or getting tested.
All right. So I'll continue with what you said about prayers. So I mean, prayers are good. Prayers work, but I believe in act. If prayers are not actionable, for me, please do not pray. I know it might come out as rough and whatever, but when I was going through this process, I saw a lot of people who are keeping my prayers, and I'm like, 20 people are keeping me in their prayers, but no one in the 20 people, nobody has said, which lab do you want me to go to? So, like when I spoke to one of our sisters the other day who's going through the process, I told her, if you have 200 friends in your phone book and all of them are prayers and wishes,
It does
honestly, I
nothing for
don't know. It
you.
doesn't really help you.
Mhm. Because faith without works is
Hmm.
nothing, right?
Yep.
Just the same way,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, prayer without works is nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are,
Mhm.
even if you have, let's say, someone is going through one of the, like, I would speak for kidney disease in particular. Let's say you're here and you have family members in Cameroon or wherever in
Mhm.
Africa who want to be donors. The US is not the only option. My One of my friends who lives in Plano, a Nigerian guy, both of us were on the well, I had just had my transplant and I went and gave a talk at Methodist, and he was on the donor list, and he was tired of being on the donor list. So he had a family member back in Nigeria who opted to donate, but then visa arrangements and all of that could not
Mhm.
work. Interestingly, that's when I found out they have a center in Nigeria in Lagos, St. Edward's Hospital. Yeah,
For
transplants.
transplants. So he
He
went
went there,
there.
did his transplant, and came back here, and you can't tell the same procedure I had done on Methodist Dallas, which with two insurances cost me medical bills of close to 100,000. He did it in Nigeria for 18 to
Yes.
23,000 bills free.
Yeah.
Yep. So there are many options out there.
Options.
We
Mhm.
have to
Mhm.
be able to look outside of the box.
Yes. Mhm.
Africa has changed. It's not
Yeah.
what we see in the media.
Mhm. Yeah.
Transplants are being done everywhere. So if your
Yes.
family member in the village says, "Oh, I wish I could transplant to you, but I'm not in the US," no, you say you guys arrange and meet somewhere in
Mhm.
Nigeria. Even in
Yep.
Cameroon, I know they recently did
Yes.
one. So
Yes.
there are many options out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So not just the prayers, we have
Mm.
to be
We have to.
active, and I'm guilty too, because when you were going through all of that, I was going through some stuff too that I
Hmm.
was in a funk, because it just, your situation just kind of went away from
Hmm.
me, and but before I knew it, yeah, before I knew it, we were talking about you had a transplant, and I
Yep.
did not, I mean, you know how you just, you're in your own head,
Yep.
so it's one of those things. Yes, we need to talk to, to the community. And
Hmm.
I'm glad you're sharing this story so that people can hear it and know that it is okay to be a donor.
Yep.
It's okay to help somebody out, because you can live with one kidney,
Hmm.
because that's
Oh
the
yeah.
other thing. You can live
Hmm.
with one kidney. So we don't want to drag this out. We we could go on and on
Oh
and
yeah,
on and on,
definitely.
but
Yeah.
I think we need a part two to hear from the donor
Hmm.
side. So we need to go on a, a retreat to convince her.
Yeah.
We'll take her out to dinner and convince her to come on the show to talk about that. And then also your psych practice. We'll
Hmm.
have a session for that too. But I want to thank you very, very, I mean, deeply from my heart for being here and for you to x-ray your life like this and share with people out there, some people whom you don't know.
Hmm.
It's amazing. So are you okay giving out your contact information for people to reach out
Oh
to you?
sure. Yeah.
Okay, if you want to shout out your contact information, or yeah, we
Should
can,
I
yeah,
do a phone or
you can do your what are you comfortable with?
yeah, phone
Phone
number?
number, yes,
Okay.
your phone
Because
number.
I'm
People
on,
can reach you
yeah,
on
I'm on
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, WhatsApp is preferable for me because
Yes,
I never know where I could be the next
I
minute.
know. Show off.
Yeah, so my phone number is 469-537-5773. And you can reach me on WhatsApp preferably, or via text message or regular text message. That I would answer 24/7. But if it's a phone call, that's a different
It's a
story.
different
Yeah.
story. I'm lucky you picked up my call. Yeah, shout out that number again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Four six nine 537 5773.
Okay. So you have it. If you're out there and you're dealing with, kidney disease, and you have questions, and you're even on a transplant list, and you're needing support, we're we're committing here to starting a support group.
Oh yeah. Talking
Yes.
about support
Yes.
real quick. When I was on this journey, one of my friends here in Newton, he connected me with this lady in Maryland, Marceline. She was going through the journey, and she was like my support pretty much.
Mm,
She was like the only person in the community whom I could like talk. I knew Iya, but Iya was very busy with her foundation. But with Marcelina, we talked on a daily basis. So when
mm,
she died, I never even knew.
mm,
It's like everybody around me knew, but then nobody told me because they were like, it was just too much. So I found out maybe like almost 9 months after she died. I was like, because I kept calling, she never picked up. But
mm.
yeah, it's always good to have
Yeah,
somebody
have
you can
somebody you
talk
can
to.
reach
Yeah.
reach out to. Yeah,
Hmm.
just who can relate to what you're
Yeah.
going
Because I
through.
mean, it doesn't
Yeah,
really necessarily have to be kidneys only. There are
yeah,
people with lung
yes.
transplants and
Mm.
different type of
Just a
transplant.
transplant.
Yeah.
Somebody who's going through a
Yeah.
transplant, or
At the
who,
end of the day,
yeah,
it's the same journey.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you very much for being
Hmm.
here. We hope to have you again. And other platforms too will definitely appreciate you, sharing your story and work on that book. And then I know we're talking about a foundation too,
Yeah.
kind of like that. We're
Yeah.
working on
Hmm.
setting up a foundation. So we'll have more information as
Yep.
that. I'll definitely want to be part of that,
Hmm.
and support that. So thank you guys very much. Thank you everybody for watching. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but we pushed through and we made it through the end. I hope you found value in this session. Share the video, please. Subscribe. Don't just click like, subscribe, so that when the videos come on, you're able to, get the notification. Thank you, and until the next segment, thanks for joining the Saaghe Fogwe.